This is a past life story, and as such, it is going to be told through a personal perspective and perhaps even using metaphor and phrases that you will not get the way I mean it. That is how past life stories are told. They are essentially true for the experiencer. Whether or not they actually truly did happen in the fabric of time is irrelevant. This is a past life story. It is the story of a young, troubled mind. It's unsure at what age he was when he ran away from home. He ran away from home because the memories of his own past life haunted him. He was ripped up inside from remembering who and what he used to be and the horrible atrocities that he had committed. This is an age in which the temples stand firm and the way of life and death still flows. Karma is king. The people within the monastery to which he found himself opened the doors and let him inside. He stood there shaking, this young adolescent. Perhaps he was 13. He begged for refuge. I would take refuge, he said. The monks inside watched. One was to the left, perhaps two were to the right, and then there was the elder man in the front. All the boy truly can remember is his tears and the uncontrollable shaking, and his begging for release and protection, if only they would still the terror in his mind. The monk said, "It's all right. You are safe here." And for years in this lifetime, the boy that has become someone else has known that he took refuge. He always thought by taking refuge, he took shelter there. It was not until last year that the boy that became someone else learned that to take refuge is to take the vow. The boy was brought in, given a room. They did not change his clothes yet, but they did give him a meal. When he woke up the next day, it was relatively warm, and there was no one around, and so the boy left his room and walked. And that is how he found the inner atrium within the temple. It's not an atrium like you and I would think of it. So then call it a private garden, and that is where the boy went. He found some bushes that were convenient and round, and he crawled within them and sat. For this boy was quite addicted to drinking. He was not drinking alcohol nor even water, but rather he drunk the memories, and so drowning in his memories he sat, remembering where he had been and how societies had changed and how different the world was. When they found him in the bushes drinking upon his thoughts, they said, "What a pious young lad, that he would already be meditating in the garden." So little did they understand. The story that I am told is that the boy spent a long time there, struggling with his grief, remembering how alone it had been for him a long time ago, and realizing that although he was in a place where reincarnation was an accepted practice, and it was accepted that souls can and do move forward to carry on their work or simply to improve, he was still alone. And so the boy had to drink alone, and he had to cope alone, and so alone he stayed until he grew into a man, and even then alone he stayed. There is a time in life that some cultures consider the cusp and the eclipse of your world. Your world turns over, and the great life stream tests you in various ways. The Elamites, so I have been told, say that this is crossing the great abyss and generally happens about when you turn 30. By the time that this happened, he had found a foundation within himself and found strength, and so thought that he was strong and was able to cope with who he had been. But the great abyss opened a chasm within his heart and mind, and all of the grief reopened the wound, and he had to deal alone again. He was not as alone as he thought he was. Those around him who knew him and had watched him grow realized something was wrong. 3 people were called unto this: one, a feminine spirit; the other, a firm hand; and the third, to stand and watch. The boy, now man, in desperation, and perhaps because he had grown to love and trust his brethren, felt that he could open up and tell his story. So he did. He told them everything. He told them who he was. He told them what he had done. He told them of his regrets and apologized and begged forgiveness. He told them even what he had always felt he had to do. It is unclear if this was a mistake, but for a while there the boy felt it had been, because their decision was to lock him down. Once upon a time, the boy could take a donkey cart and go down to the village and buy vegetables, but that was no longer allowed to be. He was no longer allowed to leave the temple walls. It was to protect, they said, but unclear if they were protecting the boy or protecting those around him. In time, as he grew, he taught the ways, but he grew into an old man trapped within that temple, so that he would stand by the great opening that was near the walkway, near on the back of the temple, and look upon the valleys and wish he could just fly. When no one was looking, he would stand on the railing and do the exercise and meditation poses that he had been practicing his whole life, until someone came and would take him down, afraid for his life. There were meetings during that time, people sitting in thunder pose upon their pillows, asking him questions and he responding. Conversations that lasted long in the night. Pupils, 12, 15, 20, in a neat row, eyes attentive, shining, as he spoke and told what he knew he could pass on, trying to help other lost minds who needed to learn control. I am told, although I do not recall, that he died a great teacher, and that he was someone not to be afraid of, but someone who had to be protected as a rare commodity. A year ago, I was asked, why don't I go to the temple? Why don't I take refuge? The truth is, I did not want to go back to that temple. As a child this life, I still did the yoga routines in the living room floor of the little trailer that my family lived in. I still did meditation exercises even into several jobs that I have had in the past, just a year and a half ago, or 2 years or 3. The ways in that temple seep into your soul and stay with you, and they guide you, and they stay with you, so that when your memories want you to drink, they do not cause you pain, and you can gain self-control. And so through this, while gaining a greater understanding of who I was, I accepted myself. I understood things I misunderstood, and then I knew peace. If any of my brethren see this and remember me, the boy who stood shaking in front of the great doors, if you, my brethren, are alive in this world and do remember me, back then I had to swallow the grief of losing my freedom. Today, I want to thank you for protecting me while helping me to fulfill my role and to be who I was created to be. Thank you for helping me to survive.
ตั้งแต่เล็กยังเคยได้ถามแม่ว่าบนข้างฟ้า